What's up, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Wizards Latest. I'm your host and DC sports fan, Ben Robertson, and on this page, we break down all the biggest headlines surrounding the Washington Wizards. So, a lot to jump into here today. I want to recap the EuroBasket weekend. There was big drama in the France versus Slovenia matchup. There was a couple tough losses for our Wizards on the international stages. Then we'll revisit the CJ McCollum discussions. I want to talk about one Wizards writer thinking that a trade for CJ or trading CJ away this year isn't necessarily guaranteed. And lastly, today I want to talk about why his role and why his value will really extend beyond just his production on the court, no matter how long CJ McCollum is here in DC. As always, make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. Drop your comments with any thoughts you might have on the video or anything you want to hear me talk about in the future. Really do try to incorporate those suggestions and those thoughts into future episodes, and I really appreciate all of the support here on the page, you guys. Today, again, a lot to unpack from the EuroBasket weekend. A big win for France against Luka Doncic and Slovenia. A game that was much closer than the 103-92 final score it had, and ended with, of course, a bunch of drama. Slovenia really battled France for most of this game until France was finally able to gain the edge late in that fourth quarter. Luka finished with 39 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists. But of course, our priority, the Wizards playing in that matchup, Bilal Coulibaly and Alex Sarr, both looked really good as well. Sarr finishing with 12 points, 5 boards, and he had a couple blocks. And notably, those blocks came late in that game, really in crunch time in the fourth quarter. They were really key for France. Koulibaly finishing with 13 points, 4 boards, and an assist for his stat line in that matchup. Just more solid performances here at the international level for those two. I thought Sarr really looked excellent in this game. Love that he is just in the mix and getting minutes down the stretch for that team. Of course, that game finished with some big drama in the final few seconds. Sylvain Francisco, 32 points, as a matter of fact, in that game. Really a very exciting player for France. I've had fun watching him. He got into it with the Slovenian team. Of course, shook hands with Luka kind of with about a couple seconds left in that game, and then decided to take the ball to the hoop, seeing an open path, and lay it right up. Now, of course, Slovenia took exception to this, sort of an unspoken thing. Once you guys shake hands, once everybody daps up, okay, that's it, dribble out the clock. And that was sort of the feeling or the tone of that moment. Now, I will say the one thing to maybe defend Francisco here is that their point differential does matter in the EuroBasket tournament in the group stages. It's an important tiebreaker. So an extra 2 points does, theoretically potentially help France. Of course, they would lose the next matchup they played against Israel, which we're going to talk about here in a couple of seconds. So potentially a point differential type deal might end up helping them out down the line. And of course, Slovenia, when the whole sort of mess was situated and they ended up having to inbound the ball one more time, they ended up taking and making a three. So I thought that was kind of an interesting sort of way to cap it all off after they got so upset about the basket originally. Again, I really can see both sides of it. I understand the sort of respect token of that. If it was just a traditional NBA game, I would very much see why there would be exception taken there. But because point differential does matter, does influence things in the EuroBasket tournament, I guess I can understand Francisco's case as well. Of course, our focus, though, here still the Wizards in these matchups, and didn't quite carry over into the next game for our young Wizards playing in this EuroBasket 2025 tournament. It was an 82-69 loss for Team France to Israel. And of course, it was a great day for those of you out there that maybe hate that Denny Avdia trade or hate that he was traded away. Maybe a day of victory or a little victory lap you're doing here today. Of course, he played great. Sarr didn't play at all in that Israel matchup with the calf strain. appreciate the precaution here, to be quite honest. Would rather not see him play through any type of injury, especially if it's not in a Wizards uniform. And then Koulibaly only finished with 4 points in this matchup, while Denny finished with 23 points and 8 boards. Of course, again, leading Israel to the win. It was a matchup that France got off to a nice start in. It was close throughout the second and third quarters, and then Israel was able to pull away in the fourth. Really, my takeaways sort of from France's weekend, to be quite honest. Even with that Slovenia matchup, I think yeah, honestly that Serbian team right now, they were already the odds-on favorite to win this EuroBasket tournament. But to me, I've sort of seen now some clear separation. We saw that Serbia team take on Slovenia in the warm-up games for EuroBasket and really just handle their business. Blew Luka and Co out of the water in that game. And then now here with the loss to Israel, obviously a disappointing result there for the French team. Again, just really though mostly focused on Bilal and Alex Sarr, how they perform. Hopefully Alex Sarr can get back in the lineup. Hopefully Bilal Koulibaly can kind of keep on rolling with what he's been able to do for the most part in most of his action in that tournament. Next thing I want to chat about though, and last note right there, Serbia also matched up with Latvia over the weekend, picked up a win against Kristaps Porzingis and co. Was a little bit disappointed there that Tristan Vukcevic, his minutes did decline notably. Was down to 9 minutes after starting to really be in the mix a whole bunch with that Serbian team. Hopefully, again with him, can get back maybe up into that, up into that rotation a little bit more, but we'll see how it goes as that tournament progresses. But I want to talk about here is that Canadian team now in their FIBA AmeriCup run, of course, featuring Kyshawn George. They flamed out a little bit here now in the last couple of games, ended up finishing fourth at the FIBA AmeriCup tournament. Remember, I was wondering, hey, maybe they're going to win this thing for the first time in their history. Lost to Argentina in the semifinals. That really coincided with Keyshawn's worst game, only had 5 points in that matchup. Got back to work a little bit in the third place game, another loss to the United States team. He had 14 points in that outing. But overall, just so fired up about what he was able to do in this tournament, in this run. We saw a nice performance from him in Summer League as well here this offseason. I know you guys are really excited about Keyshawn George as well, and I've seen a lot of feelings, on social media, even here in the comment section, that maybe this is the best player of our young core and moving forward. I think it's maybe safe to remember that the AmeriCup tournament is a slightly lower level of competition, maybe more than slightly, honestly, than the EuroBasket tournament. But still, I am just so excited about what he was able to do. And I just feel like he's got all the tools, man. When the shot is going at his size, when he's able to get it off cleanly, it's pretty much just unguardable. He's able to put the ball on the deck, too. We've talked about his playmaking ability. Just can't wait to see what the future holds. If I haven't mentioned it, I'm pretty excited about Kyshawn George and what he's going to be able to do. But I want to switch gears here a little bit next. I want to talk about CJ McCollum and a fan-sided writer, John Kennedy. I've talked about him and referenced him on the page before. Does great work. Suggests that maybe CJ could be around a little bit longer than we initially anticipated. I, of course, being one of the people that thinks most likely he's going to start the season off really strong and be a candidate. Again, most likely going to be moved around the trade deadline. But again, Kennedy suggesting that maybe CJ sticks around longer than just this season. Maybe it's not guaranteed that he does get moved this year or at the deadline. Of course, on an expiring deal this year. And, he thinks maybe Washington could convince CJ to sort of a mutually beneficial deal next year. The team, of course, we're hoping after this season starts to sort of turn the tide and really try to go all in on competing and trying to get back into the playoffs. And CJ's still going to be a player we're hoping, at least this year, is still productive even at his age. And he's also just going to be able to offer so much knowledge and experience and mentorship to some of the young players here on the team. I think, the only problem with that is that we got to remember he's going to be 34 going on 35 after this season. And it's just hard it's going to be hard to sell him at this point in his career, even with the team that's saying, hey, this is really a year that we're trying to compete in, and this is no longer, the rebuilding stages of this organization. I think you're just taking a risk of potentially letting him walk for nothing when you could at least get some value back for him at the trade deadline. But no matter how long CJ McCollum is here, I do think this raises an interesting point that it's good to have just some veterans around. Again, that knowledge of guys like McCollum and Chris Middleton, they've been around the game for so long. They've been successful for so long, played winning basketball in their careers, had great individual numbers at moments in their careers. McCollum still coming off a 21 point per game season. And particularly for Trey Johnson, I think CJ McCollum is just the guy that you want hanging around a young Trey. Of course, for a decade, he's been one of the elite guard scorers in the NBA. He's also become a better playmaker as his career has gone on. And I think that is something that if you can impart on Trey a little bit and give him some of those tools to work with, and just talk to him about how, he should approach the game and see the court. I think that's just going to be so huge and so valuable for Trey moving forward. I'll keep you posted on the CJ McCollum situation and everything Washington Wizards related right here on the page. So make sure you've hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. Turn on post notifications, drop your comments, and thanks for watching another episode of Wizards Latest.